So today we're going to take a look at the patch notes 11.6, see what got changed today. Well, I guess not today, it'll be tomorrow. Let's take a look. So we're bringing a bunch of reworks to existing cards. I like to see those. Let's see what we're doing. We'll read that later. So neutral cards. Musicians of Blaviken, power from 6 to 4. Sure. Provision is 6 to 4, so this is our second 4 provision gold card, right? And then if you have no other 4 provision cards in your starting deck, start the game on the range draw. This is really interesting. There are some decks that don't play a lot of 4 provision cards. And then in that case, you would be able to use this. I made a Cincher and Royal Guard deck the other day. That was an example, right? The Mutagenerator decks tend to not play very many 4 provision cards. So maybe you could use it in there. And this is actually really good, benefit from doing that. I do kind of like these. And I'm very cautious when I say this. I do like these things where if you build your deck a certain way, you get a benefit. Stuff like Shoop, stuff like Siri, the issue comes up when they're overtuned, like Renfree or Golden Necker with Erendite were. So I like the idea. And this is interesting. I definitely think some of the Lippy decks with Shoop will be using this. Well, it's kind of hard to not... I guess there's really have a lot of high provisions in them, so it might be hard to fit no other 4 provision cards. This is interesting. We'll definitely be trying it out. And 4 points on the start of the game is actually pretty good. That's the same points Roach gives you. It's interesting. I think it'll be quite good if your deck can allow it. We have Phoenix, add new power ability, deploy, gain vitality 5. Phoenix was one of my favorite cards. I used to love playing like double Phoenix decks. And yeah, this is really cool. So the idea here is you're getting, right now Phoenix gives you like 4 carryover each round, assuming you play it in round 1. And now you can get, potentially if you have the, this is just the first turn you play it, the first time you play it because it's deploy. Actually, let me check on Phoenix. Pull up the thing real quick. I'm pretty sure that the hatchling just transforms. Right, so you only get this the first time you play it. Doomed, orders, yeah, so you only get this 5 points the first time you play the Phoenix. But that's good because the problem with Phoenix... The problem with a lot of these carryover cards that aren't great is the tempo is super low. But gaining 5 vitality means you play this early in round 1. It'll be like 9 points probably, which is nice. The only problem is if it's like a 9, they might be tempted to heatwave it, which makes it worse. But if they heatwave Phoenix, you're probably not too mad. Hopefully this gives Phoenix enough value to be played because I think Phoenix is really cool. Next up we have Ragnarug. I have been saying Ragnarug should be changed ever since Madoc got Cataclysm. So let's see if it's a good change. So Ragnarok is an artifact. Sure. It's a scenario. Ooh, wait, is this our neutral scenario? Yeah, neutral scenario. Alright, I'm happy with this. Let's see what we have. I'm very curious. Provision cost changed from 9 to 13. So it shouldn't be the strongest scenario. Doomed. Progress whenever you play a gold unit. Okay, sure. This could fit in a lot of decks. Prologue, spawn Cataclysm for 2 turns. Okay. Chapter 1, deal damage to 5 by 5, and spawn and play Clear Skies. Oh, that's interesting. Clear Skies is everything in the row by 1, if I'm recalling correctly. Like the worst version of Bone Talisman? Yeah. The Clear Skies boosts all units on allied row by 1. Trying to think where this would be useful. I'm sure there's a place for this, because Clear Skies is nice because a lot of times you do actually end up with 5 or 6 units on a row, so that's decent value. Actually, in a lot of decks you just row stack if you're playing Trish Meteor Shower, for example, so you end up like 8 or 9 units on the row, in which case this is good value. So it's like 6 damage, 5, probably 7, we'll go 7, so it's like 18 points here. Interesting effect. Obviously, this works quite well with the dragons because 5 damage helps you kill something. Cataclysm has some synergies there. You set things get hit low and you ping them off. The Clear Skies doesn't have as much synergy with the dragons, but the dragons are golds. I'm curious if this works well with Hemdall and Combi, as I would imagine thematically it should. I don't particularly think so, which is unfortunate. It's interesting. I don't know if it's quite strong enough to see play, but no unit decks will definitely like it for the first two parts, but then they can't really take advantage of the third part. It's interesting. Maybe a deck like Arrakis Swarm that doesn't have control and can sometimes have a lot of extra provisions depending on what you're running. Like if you're playing like Witch's Sabbath and Eider version, you don't have as many provisions, but some of these decks actually have a lot of extra provisions because you want to play a lot of bronzes. Maybe then you can have a control card in your deck, and then the Clear Skies benefits with all the tokens. That might be worth experimenting with, because that's a deck that you don't really need devotion in. I'm going to try this out. I'm curious to see how it is. It seems interesting, but perhaps not enough value in it. We'll have to try it out to find out. It's curious to see how this plays out. They have Sayer Khan. Oh, this is a different one. So Sayer Khan used to be, we can pull it up right here. I believe it was a 2 that plus 10. Because we spelled it wrong. There he is. Yeah, he's a 2 that got plus 10 after timer 2. If they're changing Sayer Khan, if there's a change to prize winning cow, I'm gonna be so excited. Because that's like the card we really like here. But anyway, Sayer Khan, to diminish an enemy by number of units you control. So if you're playing a swarm deck, oh, this is actually really neat. This is actually really cool. And I think we're definitely going to be using this. I think this is actually good now. So Sayer Khan, it's a 2 value, right? You deal damage to the number of units you control. Doesn't have to be on his row, just the number of units you control. This is an insane payoff card for swarm decks. Fire Swarm, for example, and Arrakis Swarm. And the best thing about this is those, and also, what's the nature one called? Symbiosis. But Symbiosis, you really want devotion. This isn't devotion. But in the other ones, you can play non-devotion, Fire Swarm pretty easily, and Arrakis Swarm. It's usually non-devotion. So if you got like 15 units out, this is a 15 damage card for 8. That's kind of insane. This is a really good card now. Arrakis Swarm's going to love this because, and so is Fire Swarm. If you think about it, those decks tend to just not have control cards because they're swarming a lot. And this kind of mitigates their weakness. I am very excited to try this out, and I think it's going to be quite good, especially in those decks. Are those decks good is the better question, but changes to the card, definitely positive. This is can't wait to try this one out. This is going to be quite good. Scepter of Storms has a new part of the ability. Okay, we tried Scepter of Storms quite a bit in Rain, and it seemed decent enough. Order, increase the row effect duration enemy row by 1 turn. Okay, I like this. So basically, Scepter of Storms, you're paying 1 provision to have a gold artifact instead of the weather card in your deck. Now, that's fine when you were picking the weather effect that benefited you most. Like say a couple of years ago, you'd pick the Frost. Well, I guess Frost would have flipped with Fog, but you know, it doesn't really matter. You're gonna pick the one that's 2 damage, the lowest one, when they play something like Saskia Commander and pulled out an Antheri and you start hitting it. Whereas instead, if they played something, say a Keltalus, and you would have hit it down so it's not as tall anymore and they lose dominance, you pick the other one. That flexibility was kind of worth the provision before, but now you're pretty much always picking one effect with your Scepter of Storms, right? Like in a Rain deck, you're always picking Rain. In a Frost deck, you're always picking Frost. Stuff like that. So I think this is fine to have this. It makes it a little bit better of a card, which makes sense since it's gold, and you don't need the Vader Maker in your deck necessarily to get good value out of it anymore compared to just running the weather card itself. So I think this is interesting. We're going to be playing some more Rain with this, I think. The other thing that's worth noting with this, it doesn't have to be the weather effect you're increasing. You could increase, for example, a Skellige Storm with this. You can increase Cataclysm, any of the row effects, not just the one it makes. So there's a lot of potential here. Skellige Storm has the nature tag. So does Tempest. Ooh, that's intriguing. So that benefits Scoia'tael, Symbiosis. Symbiosis, not great. Well, it's okay. It's like a fine deck. Would you play Skellige? These are natures. Problem is, though, you want devotion. Is there any other nature synergy? Like, there must be... We'll check here real quick here. Yeah, the filter on the library isn't as good as the in-game filter, but I don't have the game pulled up. So, I'm not sure how much this changes, but it's interesting. Tempest, we made a video on Tempest a while back. So it's now its nature tag, 6 provisions. Alright, now this is an effect. So play all copies of Biting Frost, Fog, and Rain from your deck. This means that you can go for a weather type deck. This is really helpful to stuff like Rain, which I would imagine maybe you can actually play the Rain cards now instead of relying on units to spawn it. That'd be kind of cool. Of this, and this, I'm guessing you pick one and it plays all the copies. Otherwise, you'd be overwriting. I guess you wouldn't be overwriting the row. I'm curious if this. So, yeah, you pick one and then you get both of it. So you can either put it on both rows, stack one row. This will be quite good for, I guess, Wild Hunt Frost. You want Devotion for sure. So I guess you wouldn't run this in there. But in Rain, for example, instead of playing Kelpie, you could do this. Here's a nerf Kelpie or the Beast or something. This is cool, though. We're definitely going to try this out. Definitely going to try this one out. I'm curious as well, other than just Rain decks, because you can play Weather. Well, you used to be able to play Weather as a sort of decent engine. Not engine, but like value cards in a lot of decks. I'm curious if that's possible again now. And it's also worth knowing this is a double thinning card, and that by itself makes it quite nice. Right, so you play this for 6. You get 2 of these out of your deck, theoretically. It's a double thinning. For 14 provisions, you get 6 turns of a Rain, or Fog, or Frost, whatever. That seemed like a pretty good thinning package by itself. People might just use it for that. I can definitely see that happening. We have Wolfsbane with Organic and Alchemy. Ability change to set a unit's power to 1. Ooh, that's good. That's a 6 provision, right? Or no, it's 7. 8. Yeah, 8. Okay. Damage all units with even or odd. So for 8 provisions, with Organic and Alchemy, it makes sense for the card. You could play, so those tags would make it one to be played more in Arrakis Swarm with the Organic or Skellige with the Alchemy. Set up units power to 1. So essentially this is like a big version of Spores now. Because Spores always has the reset, and people like Spores. But I think one of the things about Spores that makes it so good is that it's a 4 provision, so if it doesn't do anything, it's not that big a deal. This is an 8, but it will always do something, because the unit power going to 1 doesn't just reset. Like if they play a 13, what's the most common thing you see right now, like the Patricidal Fury, you see Arnulf come down, you can just reset him. That's worth it. If they go for a big finisher, you can reset it. I think this is pretty good, but situational. But it definitely has a lot of potential. If there's ever like tall finisher decks, this is a really scary card, especially in those 2 decks that can tutor it out easily. So I expect Wolfsbane might see some play for a little bit. Like if the meta goes really tall, this will be good. Also worth noting, it sets up things that you want to kill stuff with. So you can set something to 1 with this and then ping it with, for example, the Scoia'tael Leader ability, stuff like that. So I think that's quite interesting. I think it might be a little expensive to be seeing as much play as something like Spores would, but definitely might see some. I'm curious. So Frost is now nature. Clear Skies is now nature. Oh, it's 4 provisions now. That's fair. 4 for boosting a row. Is that enough to, like, Clear Skies was a card you sometimes, rarely, but sometimes would see in something like Arrakis Swarm or Firesworn. Not so much Firesworn, but sometimes in Arrakis Swarm. But that was before they added the new cards for the Arrakis Swarm. Now you don't really. Curious if this means it can be played now. 4 provisions, boost all. There's another thing here is that these cards synergize so well with Symbiosis that maybe you no longer have to play Devotion Symbiosis. Maybe it's good enough that we don't want to play Ethne 3rd form. That's an interesting thought. Someone requested a long time ago I make a non-Devotion Symbiosis deck. I think it's probably good now. Well, not good, like, not necessarily good, but I think it's probably possible. With all these having natures, you can go for like a nature weather instead of the nature other cards. Clear Skies boosts all the wandering tree ants. This will be very interesting. Then you can have Ragnarud would combo pretty well, right? Because Clear Skies is a nature damaging a card is helpful there because you don't have great control. I don't know. I feel like a non-devotion Symbiosis X coming out pretty soon. We're going to make that. Interesting. Then we have King Cobra, power from 3 to 2, armor from 1 to 0. Okay, so this is fine. It's a 2 that does poison now. King Cobra I considered a lot in poison decks, but the 5 provisions really was detrimental. And you don't care about a power, and you certainly don't care about an armor on it. Like, the only time this comes up is doing random ping damage to you. But yeah, 4 provisions for another poison. Yeah, this seems quite useful now. It's not as good as Fangs of the Empire, obviously. That's a 4 for 4 with a poison. And Fistix 4 coins with the 4 poison. But if you want to augment those decks with this, it's a little less efficient, but you do have the extra poisons. Might be worth considering. Spring Equinox. Let's see. That was the nature tag. This is the Purifier row, right? The only time you ever see this is in, what's it called? Yeah, it is. In Viper decks. The only time you ever see this card. So, now it's the nature tag. 5 provisions, okay. Boost unit by 0, increase the boost by 1. Okay, now this is interesting. Let's say we have 13 nature, or 12 nature cards, which is the max. 12 nature cards. This is a plus 12 for 5, which is obviously amazing. Definitely non-devotion. Symbiosis can be tried out here. Very interesting. I wonder if there's a payoff. This is a payoff you don't have to play in Symbiosis in particular, because you can get this as a payoff to play nature cards in any deck. Right, so nature obviously, or Symbiosis obviously is the benefit of the Symbiosis. Like, if you look at Ethne, right? Symbiosis, whenever you play a nature card, spawn a wandering treant, blah, 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 blah. So you can play non-devotion cards in Symbiosis. They still spawn the treants. You just don't get the payoff from Ethne and other devotion effects. But you can play this in other cards. You lose out a bit on the Symbiosis, but I think Spring Equinox might be a big enough finisher, and the value for something like Tempest of Thinning, especially in a rain deck, that it might be worth it. I'm curious. We'll definitely be trying this. No, how are we supposed to meme on Wolfpack? It got changed. I remember when I first played Gwent, Wolfpack was actually a playable card. What we have here, 1 power, sure. Boost self by 1 for free allied unit on this row. You know what? That's actually good. So if you've got 8 units, you play this last. It's a 9 for 4. That's quite good. If you got 6 units out, 7 for 4 is pretty decent. Good payoff to the Swarm decks. I kind of figured they'd eventually change Wolfpack into something like this. Yeah, this is quite cool. I do like all these neutral changes. I'm guessing most of the changes will be neutral, but let's take a look at what else we have. Monsters. Morvud is a relict. Okay. 12 provisions. I like this. 1 power. He's going to have a cool effect then. The end of your turn will hand, deck, or graveyard increase own base power by 1. So theoretically, you usually have, 15 turns plus 1 more 15 turns before you play this. It will theoretically be a 16 base power. I like it. I think this is interesting. Relics have a lot of options, and they like being tall. But sometimes just having a big card as a finisher is nice, because you play Relics, you kind of do want to keep playing only Relic cards in your deck, because they all benefit Self-Eaters and stuff. But they don't have the biggest finisher. Like, you get a lot of value from things like Incubus bringing things back, and you can play stuff like She Who Knows, which is pretty big, but they can actually just lack like a good finisher card, and this is a good finisher card. Huh. However, it's worth noting this is one of the worst things you could possibly have Equiraxed. Although, it does increase in the graveyard, so if it gets pulled out early, you can always Ozrel it or something. Very interesting. I think this will see play. Fiend is a relic. Yeah, I was always wondering why Fiend was a beast. 8 power. So it's an 8 for 4, right? They buffed it to 4 at some point. Yeah, they buffed it to 4 at some point. So it's an 8 for 4, which is amazing, but it loses a power for every unit on the opponent's row. It decreases the base power too. This is a really nice opening card. And it's also really good just to bring back with the incubuses. Usually you play like griffins and the Gancans. But now you might just play the Gancans and then use fiends for the other one, for the incubi. I think this will be pretty good. I definitely see some of this. Relic love here. I kind of like relics, unless they're playing like Witch's Sabbath, Triple Guernicora, which I don't like. But these seem like they'll help. Skellige Delirium is 8 provision now, with Echo. Alright, what do we have here? Choose between a random bronze Skellige Beast and a random bronze Skellige Human that were not in your starting deck. Spawn and play the one you choose, the other in your graveyard. Oh, when doomed to choose both. Choose golds instead. Okay. Hold on a second here. There are a lot of gold. There's actually not that many gold beasts, I don't think, right? This is another way to get combi. Every time this happens, I think of combi. Beast. Yeah, the filters on the online one don't work super well because obviously Olaf is also a beast. So the filters here don't work great. So another way to get combi, because I believe combi is a beast. Yeah. So this is interesting. The first time you get one in the graveyard helps with your Corrupted Flaminica, right? Because you spawn the beast in your graveyard. I'm guessing that's what you're normally going to do, unless the beast is better. Because usually I guess the beast will go there eventually anyway. But yeah, you can get a beast and Skellige Human that were not your starting deck. The beast one's probably more helpful there, because I think there's less. They could always get something like Anglerfish. The effect, so you get a random bronze, basically. It's not quite random. It's going to be more controlled than it might look like. The humans, there's quite a few of, though. So I'm guessing the beast will usually be better. And they spawn in their graveyard, but when it's doomed, you choose golds. So gold human, there's quite a few of those. Gold beast, not so much. Worth noting, Fukusha is a beast. I have a feeling this may just replace Magic Compass and the Golden Necker decks. However, I don't think that'll work as well, because you'd want Rune Mage to see 5 choices, and he's 10 provisions, and several of the beasts you'd put in your deck. So like you could put in, for example, the non-Fukusha beast to make sure you get Fukusha, except Olaf's a 10, Combi's a 10. So it will be much less consistent, but it's possible you could still get Fukusha off of this. So that's interesting. I think this card will be very good, but it does have the Hengaith Sword problem. The Hengaith Sword problem is where the first time you play it's like bad, and the second time you play it's really good. Right? So if you draw it in round 3, this is what I said about Hengaith Sword. It's a good card. If you draw it in round 3, it's not a good card because it's a 5 damage for 9. If you draw this in round 3, it's also not great. However, it has Echo. It's in Skellige, so Skellige is very consistent. Generally, because you discard package and stuff. And spawning a gold beast or a human, it's a lot of choices here. Worth noting it's gold, not legendary, like something like Magic Compass is. So there's more choices too. I think this will be more random than it might seem at first, especially on the golds, because there are a lot of gold cards. But this is a cool card. And the old Delirium, like 6 random damage, wasn't that exciting of an effect. But yeah, this is really neat. We're trying this out for sure. The Giga Scorpion Decoction has the option of doing the 6 random damage instead of Delirium, so against the choice. I like that. I like cards with choices. And Decoction, this is a buff to Decoction, and I like it. Ulfadin, so we made a video on Ulfadin. We had some change ideas. Let's see what we've got. So, power change from 4 to 6. Yeah, base power increase, makes sense. Provisions, 7 to 10. Sure, let's see what the effect is. Bloodthirst 3. Yeah, we thought of a Bloodthirst. I think we mentioned Bloodthirst as a potential second effect on that card. It was a long time ago, that I might be mistaken. Damage an enemy unit and units adjacent to it by half their power. Now, that's a good effect. So, if you have Bloodthirst, assume an average unit power is like 6 or 5, because 5 you'd still do 3 damage. So assume this is doing 3 damage to 3 cards. It's 15 for 10. That's quite good for hitting 3 cards. I think this is good now. It's a little situational. Bloodthirst. I mean, you pretty much only see Bloodthirst being used right now for Sove with the Patriciidal Fury. And all the other ones are being ignored. But hopefully this gives you another choice, because this is a nice payoff for it. The only slight negative is that Bloodthirst 3 means you might have damage to cards. Like, the cards you want to hit with this might already be damaged, lowering the value. But I think you can play around that enough, especially if you're playing Patriciidal Fury. I do like this. So Ulfodin, Delirium, Gigascorpion, Decoction for Skellige. Quite excited about Delirium. Quite excited about that. I'm sure you'll see some decks using this in Rune Mage. Ulfodin, also excited about, because I think Ulfodin has one of the best arts. And Decoction's a nice change. Northern Realms Falibor, another card that needed a buff. So 6 power. Whenever this unit receives a boost, damage a random enemy by the same amount. So now he is... This is his only ability. Right, because we don't have anything else. So it's a 6. I'm guessing he's still 12 provisions. I believe he's 12. I think he was 13, got buffed to 12. Or he got buffed to 11. He got buffed to 11, that's what it was. 12 to 11. So he's a very big engine card. Whenever it receives a boost, damage a random enemy by the same amount. So if you've orders that boost, you could have the order set up and then fire all this off, which would be quite nice. Or you could play him behind like a defender, and then just play boosts on him. You could use some of the leader boosts from like Shield Wall or something. That's not amazing, because none of them have a super high boost. There's no grace. But this has potential. Let's see what else we've got. Kira Metz. She's been changed a couple times now. 12 provisions. Ooh, I bet she's in a combo here. So Patience. Order. Play Patience number. Unique bronze spells from your graveyard and give them doomed. Now that's quite cool. So if you're playing something like Mages, you end up playing casting contests. Maybe what's the one that shuffles the card and plays a Patience unit. I forgot its name. And then sometimes you have other ones as well you could play. In theory, you could play a bunch of bronze spells. Probably just packed casting contest and that other one. I don't think you'd play too many bronze spells. I think those are like just play the decent ones still. Also worth knowing Elzer's Thunder, because they don't have to be Northern Realms spells. Thunder's a decent one. There's some other ones as well. Give them doomed. So if you protect her, you could potentially get like 6/5 value spells from your graveyard, and she'd play for like 36 points. That's a really big finisher, but she does have Patience. Patience cards can be answered a lot of the time. This is definitely interesting, though. I think we'll be trying that out. And what you can do is obviously, some of these do boost. So like Pact, for example, you could play Falibor, then play this, double Pact it. That's pretty good. I think there's a lot of fun synergies to be had here we'll try out. Scoia'tael. Hillian Epculin. Okay, well we have ability change. Yeah, this card seemed like it was cool, and it was like the face of the last expansion, but it didn't really see much play. Spawn and play backup plan. So that's the order. So deploy's staying the same, right? Oh, I forgot the spelling. It's T-E-L. So the deploy stays the same. And then we are changing the order. So spawn and play backup plan. Spawn and play backup plan. If this unit is doomed, damage enemy by the number of doomed units you control instead. If this unit is doomed. So if she's doomed, damage enemy by the number of doomed units control instead of playing the backup plan. I'm not sure what that's about. And I think I'm missing something here. You guys let me know what I'm missing here. Oh, I figured out what we're missing. It's because cargo gives doomed instead of prepared. So we removed the prepared keyword from the game and just went with doomed. Okay, never mind. This makes sense now. I gotcha. Non-neutral agent, bandit, or soldier that wasn't played this turn. That should be the same. It's just they're giving doomed instead of prepared. Right? I can't see the thing here. The cargo did that, though. Okay. This makes sense, I guess, because I'm guessing they didn't want the interaction with Vanadane. Because what you could do is you could Vanadane and then cargo it and then renew the Vanadane and do it again with a bunch of purifies. I guess they didn't want that interaction. I guess that makes sense. So that's it for Squire-Tail. Let's go to Nilfgaard. Dunny, I just had a conversation with someone about this card. How it used to be sort of playable, now it's not. So, we have power from 7 to 6. Sure. When entered the battlefield, boost 1 for each spying enemy unit. I like it. So, you transform the Urkian of Erlenwald into Dooney, for how you pronounce it. And then when you do that, it triggers the one entering the battlefield effect to boost self first by 1 for each enemy spying unit. So in a spying deck, this becomes quite good. I like that buff. I like it. At least he has a place now. Then Mangonel's starting charges from 1 to 2. I thought this would make sense. The problem with Mangonel, we had a lot of fun with the Rot Tossers and Siege Masters. The problem with the Mangonel is you really needed Siege Master. And if you did have Siege Master, like a Siege Master deck, it was kind of hard to fill the spying stuff in. So now if it just does 2 damage on order without any other help, that's much better than just having the 1. And more payoff to spying. I think spying maybe has enough to try and make a deck with it again. We will see. This is for Nilfgaard. I'm excited about that Dunny change. Then Syndicate Tatterwing, finally. I've been waiting for his card to get changed. Power from 6 to 1. Okay. It's an 11 provision. Has immunity. Now this is a card. This is going to be a fun one to play with. Power change from 6 to 1. Provision cost change from 7 to 11. And it has immunity. At the start of the game, set the power of all other units in your deck to 1. And own power to 25. I love it. Alright, so here's the thing. Obviously, it's going to be in a low unit deck. And you want all of your units to have low base power. The amount of points you're going to lose, though, is pretty substantial. Right? Because you have to have 13 units. So which means you have to have 12 other units. All those 12 other units are going to have 1 power. They're all going to have 1 power. And even supposing the average power of a unit is like 3 or 4, something quite low, that's like minus 24 or 36 points to get this one really big immunity card. Is that worth it? I don't know, but it seems kind of cool. There's also one more thing to mention here, which I think... Yeah, so Tatterwing has a lot of synergies with healing, right? Because it's setting their power to 1 has a lot of synergies with it. It doesn't affect something like Ignatius, right? Because it's not their base power. It just sets their power. Syndicate. This card might be useful. This might be useful. I don't think the tribute's actually 1, though. I'm not sure what's going on with the filter thing here, but Blind Eye Apothecary might be useful. This card used to be really good, and then they nerfed it, and no one played it anymore. But that will be very good value combo with this. And then, obviously, if you go to Syndicate units, there's quite a... we can also look at neutral, right? I guess Olgierd von Everick has some synergies. But if we look at the Syndicate units, right? Just reset the filter, please. look at these Syndicate units. There are a lot with low base power. Like Cleaver, really good synergy with Tatterwing. Philippa, this gets healed back. There's a lot of synergies here, especially Cleaver as a round winning card because you're playing a lot of crimes. You like Tatterwing Cleaver, have Ferko, play a bunch of crimes, have Gord as an option, and then kind of just go in with a bunch of bronzes that just give coins, right? You have stuff like that. You can go in with things like, where's the 4 provision ones that I'm thinking of? Stuff like Scapegoat, stuff like, where's the Prophet one I'm thinking of? The Apothecary we already mentioned, definitely be in there. Obviously, probably still play Disciple. Where's the Blind Eye one that gives you like Prophet 3 and boost itself? Anyway, you know what I'm talking about. The urchin, not the urchins, this one. Yeah, urchins. Stuff like this. There's 2 there, 1, 2, 3, 4. I guess you'd play this. Probably have some fee cards. 9. You actually can make a pretty decent deck here. I'm definitely going to be trying out Tatterwing. It seems kind of crazy, and it also seems kind of funny. And I definitely want to make a game with it, or a deck with it. Oh, and Oxenfurt Guard cooldown. I like Oxenfurt Guard. The cooldown can be annoying. Not having it just gives you an option as like a last spender if you have it, instead of planning it out. I do like the Guard anyway, though. I think it was good. So this is nice. Very interesting. As far as the game fixes, certain abilities with orders, with cooldowns, no, I have not seen this very much. Amir can't target immune, sure. Playing Kelpie can be cancelled. This is so annoying that you couldn't cancel playing Kelpie. And Naiad Fledgling longer triggers Vitality when Symbiosis only appears on the opponent's side. Okay. So overall, some interesting changes. Definitely going to be playing some non-devotion Symbiosis. Be trying out the package. Be trying some of the Swarm decks with the Shere Khan. That'll be cool. And then we're playing Relics some more. I do like Relics. Making another, what's it called? Alchemy deck. Trying out Ulfa Din. Yeah, a lot of interesting changes. Most excited for Tatterwing, I think. And then Kira will be fun to play around with. And then some of those other things. Yeah, so that's the patch. We talked about it for a little more than normal here, but there's some very interesting changes. Hope you guys enjoyed, and let me know which cards you're most excited to see. That'll be it for this one, guys. Hope you enjoyed. We'll see you next time. Make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more. And you can check out some more videos over here. And thanks for watching.